And I will get started. Hello, hello, and happy 2025, everyone. I am DL Walker. For those of you who have not met me personally or have been to an event or watching on recording, I just wanted to send a happy, joyous, prosperous, healthy new year to you and your family. And as I was sharing just before, whether people are conscious of it or not, that the energy of a new year can be very, very powerful. And utilizing that energy in a forward moving way can really benefit us. And I know for myself, I was very conscious of that this year. And setting some things, reflecting yesterday and today in some things that I am choosing for this upcoming new year. And this class and every class that I teach, I want it to be about the participants. I want it to be able to give you what you are seeking at any moment in time. So if there is anything in particular that you have a question about, or that you're curious about, or that you would like to have covered, please do share that. There's a chat box, a chat icon at the bottom that you can go ahead and click on. And I'm just going to send a Happy New Year message and welcome. And you can always comment or also, write some reflections about yourself. Like maybe let me know where you're from and maybe what it is that you are wanting to gain from this event, or what it is that you are putting forth intentionally for the energy of the new year. So please do kind of take a moment on that so I can receive any input from you and kind of take the class from there. One of the things that I had talked about this year, the energies that I'm feeling, one of which is love, having the intention of doing everything or as many things as possible with the energy of love, including connecting with you this evening. And the other energy that I wanted to talk about and had mentioned is the energy of celebration, whether things happened or occurred in the previous year or previous hour or previous minute, to celebrate that, even if it was in the seemingly negative. And the reason being is, number one, it's higher vibrational. So it happens to work a lot energetically, a lot easier to your system. And it keeps you in a really high vibrational mindset, which gives you stability and clarity to look at events and situations and things in a way that can be profoundly objective and helpful with regard to your next step, whatever that looks like. So one of the things that we're going to be doing today is setting an intention. And if we don't have any reference on what we're what we're wanting to intend, then it makes it very difficult to set such desires, such desired outcomes, such intentions for the year. So when we think about those things that we're celebrating and that went well, like maybe drinking more water, feeling more hydrated, getting better sleep, those are things that we'll want to continue on the journey. And if there were some other events or situations that were not so positive, that didn't serve us well, that maybe were seemingly painful or again, lower vibrational. Well, those things are clues also, because then we can look at that and make it different, potentially using the exact opposite. So for example, if I drank too much last night, and which I didn't, I actually, probably for the first New Year's in a very long time, I did not have any alcohol. But if I did and it didn't serve me, and it feel real good this morning, or if I just ate some food that's not agreeing with me right now, then I might want to take that particular activity, situation, energy, and choose something different. So again, having a frame of reference is really, really important. And while I specialize in foot and ankle, and what I've really come to realize over the last decade of specializing in foot and ankle is that the foot and ankle is affected by what is going on above it, within it, around it, and also including our mindset and our energy. So when we think about what we're intending for the new year, I want us to take, I'm gonna yes, set about a minute timer to go, and I want us to reflect and celebrate, to spend a minute celebrating those things that went in a positive way for us, the things that served us well, the things that kept us in a higher vibration, the things that felt good. And so I'm going to go ahead and let you go ahead and do that. And I'm going to play some frequencies along to set the energy for that. So if you give me a moment, I will go ahead and you guys can start doing that. And hopefully you'll be able to hear this.
Can't hear it, DL.
You can't
It
hear it?
started. It started. Now I can.
Okay. Okay. And now what you can do is take another minute to write down some of the situations that were unpleasant, some of the experiences that were unpleasant, and think about how that affected you in with regard to your mindset, with regard to your actions, and with regard to your energy. And I will give you a minute to do that. All right. Is anybody open to sharing some of those things that went well, or some of the things that you would like to change a little bit? Go ahead, Arlene.
Okay, what went really well this past year was my different forms of creative expression. That includes my artwork that I do, and I don't do it commercially at all. I do it for my own pleasure. But one of the really cool things is I had 3 pieces of art in a juried show last month. So that was kind of cool. Um, my fitness has improved and gone as well as I could ever expect it, including my legs and my feet, by the way. They're feeling fantastic. My friendships are blossoming and blooming, and I realize how wonderful they are and how important they are for me in my life. And it's not just like a whole lot of acquaintances. I have a couple of really, really good friends that will support each other through anything. Those are the main things. Those are the main things that really, really went well. What really didn't go well, that I'm really having trouble with still, is at home, with my husband being increasingly not well and switching from being a wife and partner to being a caregiver.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really, really still having trouble with that.
Mm.
And I really feel it's taking away a lot of my freedom and stability.
Yeah. That is, from my experience in working with and going through that and observing it from a distance, it is a very, very challenging situation
Yeah.
that I think is unique and different for every person. And so I wonder if we could take the words out, the caretaking out, and maybe try to, reframe it a little bit, or look at the energy that you're seeking. And I heard freedom.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah.
we talked about that freedom and stability in one of our sessions together.
Yeah.
And it's still very much, an issue. Because, my generation grew up with the idea that your parents take care of you, and then you get married and your husband takes care of you. It's a very outdated belief, and I don't even believe it, but it's still way deep down there, eh? And certainly I have done a lot of things that go against the grain, and that have been wildly successful and that I've loved. But still there's that's a base belief that I grew up with. And now, I mean, God bless my mother. My mother is doing better than my husband is. She's 99.
Oh gosh, yes.
But it's like, you feel like, and it's been a growth experience. I have learned to handle it, maybe not as well as I want to. And certainly, love is not all you need. You need you need a huge, even if the love is there, and it is, you need a huge amount of courage. You need a huge amount of flexibility, and detachment also, not to absorb another person's negative energy.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'm learning those things.
Yeah.
But whoa, it's I haven't succeeded yet.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
even coming in here to this meeting, I'm here in a little part in my little art room in the basement. That's like, I can't hear anything that's going on in the rest of the house. It's my own little private, happy space.
Yeah.
And no one can hear me. I can't hear them. And Alan says to me, I hope I don't fall because you won't be able to hear me. And I said, well, you have your phone in your pocket. Call me if something happens. I have my phone beside me. But if I see you live with that, and it's like, oh,
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm feeling the energy of recharging, being able to take time like this and to recharge a little bit. And to put let's maybe set the intention that there can be a win-win solution.
Okay.
And because there are infinite possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
So there are infinite possibilities, and some, might be outrageous. And that's okay. But keeping yourself open, the energy open, sometimes allows you to come, find those solutions.
Right.
So that's awesome. My good friend Tamar is here, I think, because I see her husband's name. So, and it's really nice to see you tomorrow because I know you're feeling unwell. So thank you for being present and offering your energy. It means a lot to me. And also Tamara is an incredibly gifted physical therapist, and she has an amazing practice in New York called Thrive. And I think we're going to thrive in 25. Thrive in 25. Anybody else want to share what we're doing? Is we're sharing our victories and some of the things that we're that maybe didn't go so well that we're choosing to change in 2025 due to our foot health or in general, using the energy of the new year. Anybody else want to share? Go ahead, Lori.
Yep, I guess I'm
You got
sharing.
highlighted, so yeah.
I didn't do anything, but I kind of give other people room. So this whole 2024, I literally have been in some kind of recovery from a surgery or an accident. I had foot surgery last January, at the end of last January, and had a tremendous challenge for a good 10 months with just wasn't seemed to me it wasn't healing properly, or I was in just pain constantly. I reconnected with you, which was great, in the early summer. That was fabulous. And then in August, I tripped and broke my elbow,
Right.
and then had to basically disconnect from all my life activities that I really enjoy. And plus, had to interrupt the work I was doing with you. So that was tough. And now that I've been able to come back and join your 8-week group, it's been still challenging. My foot, I'm still, got some issues there. Obviously, we're working on. My elbow is getting a lot better, but it is an everyday at home rehab I have to do that started out being incredibly painful and uncomfortable. And I just didn't look forward to it at all. And you've kind of helped me switch that up. And one of the things that I've been doing now is I listen while I'm doing my arm stretches, which are not as painful as they had been in the beginning, but they're still not very fun. I listen to a healing meditation like while I'm doing them, and I've turned it into like a relaxing kind of meditative experience. So I'm chill. I'm not anxious about it. I'm not judging, because in the beginning it's like this isn't moving, my arm's never going to heal, and it was a lot of negative, low
The mindset,
vibrational.
right?
Yeah. So I definitely, with your help, have turned that around, and it's still, I still have a ways to go with that. But the other great thing is, I retaped my feet today because I decided, let's get back on the plan, even though between you and I privately, I did tell you I really needed to prioritize my arm. And you helped me take the pressure off, you know, getting with the program with the foot, even though I'm joining the class with you guys. And that really was very important for me to not put that pressure on myself. But I'm fitting it in, I'm fitting it in bits and pieces. And I was very happy. I was really determined to get my foot taped back up again today, both of them, which I did. So that's going along. And like Arlene, I'm not an artist by training, but I do have gotten back into a collage studio that I was doing every week. And that's been a great way to process, non-verbally, a lot of the emotional stuff that was attached to all this healing and it not going as fast as I wanted. And is something wrong? Is it ever going to be normal kind of thing? So yeah, this year I'm very happy to like last year, I'm very happy to put behind me. And going into this year, I'm looking forward to more health and freedom and mobility and engaging back with my life and my people and my activities. So I'm really hopeful that, and doing some traveling this year, which I had to kind of stop doing as well. So, anyways, long story, I'm done being a patient.
Excellent.
And I just want to be a participant in my life more fully this year.
Yeah, yeah. One of the things that I love that you shared was how you shifted the exercises to
Mhm.
making it more like a meditative type of thing by using, music. And music is extremely powerful. We just used it actually.
Mhm.
And frequencies. And that I personally also find frequencies very helpful. So, Arlene, that might be something that you can have going in your house. Um, it's super easy. You can download a frequency generator. All of this stuff is, in correct size on how to do that. Some frequencies that, um, that are, powerful. And we've worked with frequencies before,
Mhm.
you and I too. So, you know about the power of it.
Yeah.
And I know for
Mhm.
myself, one of the things that I enjoy doing too is to work with other people at the same time when I'm working out. So coming on this year, I think on pop-ups to work on different parts of my body and maybe share that with some people who might be wanting to work on those parts of their body too. Could be a lot of fun, as well as, keeping going with the basis, which is the foot and ankle. And Bonnie, hey, thank you for sharing about the foot health and how it directly affects stability, energetic, emotionally, mentally, etc. And I'm glad that you're in PT for your ankles, and wanted to address that very, very important concept. So there's a interesting, and I know, Bonnie, that you do energy work as well. So within the foot, by the way, the bone in the foot that connects the rest of the body to the foot, it's called the talus. It's also known as the keystone of the body. It's like because of its connection from one part of the skeleton to the other. It has the second highest electromagnetic frequencies next to the heart. So it is the second most powerful area in the body. And when podiatrists or people who make orthotics want to adjust the foot, this is the area that they tend to work on. This joint right here, the keystone, so to speak, because it's going to affect what goes on above and it's going to affect what goes on below, theoretically. However, there are other players that can affect the talus, right? Most notably, the forefoot. And when this is something that I was not taught, and it is something that I've come to appreciate, is the connection between the toes and these bones, these long bones right here. I say they're like seesaws. They're called the metatarsals. And how these guys can impact what goes on at the talus and the other bones above it, including the ankle, and how it impacts particularly the range of motion of the ankle. So when I have worked with people on their ankle, I always work on their toes. And most other therapists, and I was not taught this, but what goes on here, if there's not a lot of mobility in through these joints right here, and just the toes and the metatarsals is 33 of the 52 joints in the foot. So the majority of joints are from here forward. And when these have good mobility, then it takes the stress off of the ankle, including one of the motions that I talked about that I want to teach about today, called it's called dorsiflexion. It's our ability to walk, to balance, to prevent falls. So research has shown that you need at least 10 degrees of dorsiflexion with the knee straight and 8 degrees with the knee bent to be at a decreased risk for falling. And traditionally, we have, as therapists and foot professionals, we have been taught that all of that comes from the ankle, when in fact, it is highly impacted from the toes and the metatarsals because of fascial connections through here. And the majority of individuals, especially people who have worn heels in their life, like I have, or people who have calluses around the ball of the foot or on their toes, they are lacking mobility in through here, and as well as the talus being impacted by what goes on above. So that's why my website is kind of termed, and my brand is Natural Foot Treatment and Beyond, because foot problems go beyond the foot, both structurally and then also with regard to mindset and energy, and any sort of dysfunction in those three are going to affect one another. They are interconnected. There cannot be one without the other, for sure. So when our energy is down, our mindset, psychology tends not to be as great. It can affect our posture because our hormones also, right? Our posture can affect our hormones. So again, it's all connected and important. I should say powerful to combine, right? The mindset, right? The intention with the energy. Again, frequencies is probably one of the best ways to enhance an energy, and then also structurally. So once again, all connected, and everything starts with an intention. What is the intention, and how are you going to speak that to yourself is very powerful. So for example, research has shown that thinking a muscle to become stronger has made it stronger. Just thinking. So if when we are doing anything like walking, for example, or standing, or watching a sunset, you know what I mean? Just having the intention, what am I intending to receive right now? How am I, what am I choosing to feel? What's the energy I'm wanting to bring to this experience? And if it's dread and self-punishment, that is not a great vibration for the desired outcome. So it's getting aligned, right? Aligned, my favorite word, in body, mind, and energy. And each ability to align in each of those areas is going to get you to your desired outcome far more quickly and more pleasantly than just focusing on one area. I think it's way more powerful. And going back to your comment, Bonnie, also, and could you tell me, Bonnie, did you study activator, or have you done Karen Can's work? Are you there? Maybe you're just okay. I'm curious about that. Because what I was going to say is that in the energy work that I've learned, there are meridians that are very similar to acupuncture that can be affected by posture. And there are systems within the body as well that also need to be aligned in order to work properly. So one of the things that really resonated with me when I learned the system and I got super excited about was that we were looking at these systems within the body and working to align them. That was the goal, but doing so energetically, which, also revolved around setting an intention for the desired outcome. So alignment is key in body, mind, and energy. Alignment is key in body, mind, and energy. So once again, looking at from an energetic standpoint, from the foot, we have the talus that we talked about, second highest electromagnetic frequencies in the body. Acupuncture points, there are many, and there are systems and organs. Anyone who's done reflexology will know the representation on the toes in particular. And in the energy modality that I've worked with, there are these pathway systems, again, similar to the meridian pathways in acupuncture. They are a bit different. And there are 19 of them in the system that I've learned. 17 of 19 of them go through the foot, and many of them go through the toes. So, yes.
What's your opinion of grounding mats? You're talking about the electromagnetic properties of the talus. Grounding plug into to the grounding part of an electrical plug, and they're said to do all kinds of wonderful things for you.
Right. There are a lot of things that people do with the feet. I'll put it that way, right? But when and intuitively, I think one of the easiest things to do, and we do it a lot down here in Florida, is walk on the beach.
Yeah, we don't do that in Montreal.
Yeah, I know, not this time of year. And it probably wouldn't be so good to be barefoot in the snow. Oh, yes. Oh, very good. Okay, great. Great. So thank you, Bonnie, for commenting. On the bottom of your screen, there should be an area that says audio, and you can click on that to unmute. If you can figure that out, that would be awesome. Because I'd love to hear from you as well. So my suggestion, going back to your question, Arlene, again, I think it's any kind of natural substance that you can be in contact with, be it maybe crystal, or some of those mats I know have crystals in them. Magnets have been popular, also with other people. It's about finding what works for you. But one of my favorite exercises, and I call it a $1 million exercise because it does so many things, is in the Corrective Size program, where you move your feet back and forth over the ground. And it's designed to be a high intensity. So you can do high intensity interval training in sitting. And when you do that, you're getting stimulation to the bottom of the feet.
Right.
And I need to go beyond this a little bit too, as well as reinforcing range of motion of the entire foot, both forward and backward and in the circles.
Okay.
When you do circles. And that also reinforces the foot movements, will also reinforce movements, as we've learned in the 8-week program, of the lower leg, and also the hip and the femur, how that's connected. So when we lose a range of motion, right, when we become inhibited in a range of motion at the foot, it's going to affect the knee and the hip. And when we lose the range of motion at the hip or the knee, it's going to affect the foot. They're reinforcing one another. They are reinforcing one another. And that particular exercise, I call it sit and hit, is, and again, you don't have to do it fast, but you can do it over, a carpet, or, even in the sand, right? I mean, I don't know about you, but I used to dig my heels into the sand also. kind of moving it back, moving it back and forth. So there's something to interacting with the elements of nature when possible. So again, any kind of crystal, any kind of thing that is found in nature. But one of the interesting things that I also was not aware of, and this goes back to the work of Dr. Emily Spiegel. She created, she has a company called Nabosu, which is about sensory input to the bottom of the feet. And
those insoles.
Yes, she has those insoles. And she wrote a book called Barefoot Strong that I've been reading. And she talks about that the foot, the foot sensory system reacts to vibration. It's vibration that it reacts to. And so there is research that shows that putting vibrators in people's shoes will improve their balance. So I think there's also something to be said for, the foot spas and stuff, that kind, because it's vibration and it's interacting with an element, which is water, right? And if you wanted to make it even higher vibrational, you could play frequencies or put crystals in the water, infuse it with water. I mean, like I said, there's infinite possibilities to create a situation that is aligned with your desired outcome and something that is forward moving that will get you there again faster. And one of those things absolutely is the mindset, aka words to ourself, aka intention. So there is a person by the name of Brendan Burchard. He has studied high performance, and he said the first thing on your to-do list should be an intention. And he talks about he does this via triggers. So for example, when he drives into his driveway, he has an intention before he walks in the door of how he's going to bring the energy into that situation. This guy is really highly disciplined. And for some people, the best way to be compliant with something is to schedule it or set a trigger. So again, every time I brush my teeth, I think, oh my God, I have such beautiful teeth, whatever it is that you're going to do, that could be a strategy that will work for you. It could be anytime, oftentimes when I see 555, I think of something high vibrational or, whatever. So that is a possibility also. Again, beginning, our yoga practice today, what we did was set an intention, and, the instructor brought us through it and bringing the energy and pulling that energy in. And again, these kinds of things can be very, very powerful when you walk into the office or when you see your spouse or when you wake up in the morning. Those are great triggers to start your day, and sometimes I will start my day with a meditation or with frequencies, and that's very, very helpful, and playing them as I'm going about making my coffee and such. Did you have a comment, Arlene?
I was thinking when you were talking about the vibration, I have one of those things. It's made by a company called Revitive, and it's electrical muscle stimulation. And it's fabulous, absolutely fabulous. I love it. When I'm sitting and watching TV at night, take off my shoes and socks, and you put your feet on there. You wet your feet just a little bit, and you plug in this thing, and you can control the intensity, and you get the muscles being stimulated in the foot, and it reaches all the way up, partway into your calf.
Excellent.
And it's fabulous for making it.
Yeah. And what is electricity?
Energy.
Yeah. It's so funny because, I had some hesitation when I decided to learn energy work at the particular work that I chose to study. And then I thought about it. I'm like, I've been using energy medicine for decades because in physical therapy, we've used electric stim, we've used ultrasound, we've used laser. In the past, I know I was recently thinking about this when I read something on Facebook about far infrared light, right? When I went to physical therapy school, we were trained on how to use far infrared and UV actually in measured quantities, right? For wound care and healing. It's just that I think we stopped using it because insurance stopped paying for it. But it doesn't mean it's not good. And I'm talking about the US. So
even in Canada, there are devices for red light therapy that you can buy. And actually, I have one, and I'm great on toys. And it really, really helps my muscles. It helps from an intense dance session or intense exercise session. It really, really helps the muscle recovery.
Yeah. And again, it's about finding what works for you. And from what I understand, you can put together a far infrared kit from things at Home Depot. I know people who've done that. So again, I'm sure there's a YouTube video about that. So it doesn't, and here's the other thing, that things don't have to cost a lot of money, right? You can find frequencies on YouTube. You can download a frequency generator for free and just, play certain frequencies that tend to promote certain energies, like the energy of the earth, for example. When you're jet lagged, that's supposed to help, which is, I think, 5.83 hertz. Everything has a frequency. So again, tapping into the ones that align to you and using that with an exercise session or with your daily tasks and moving into that mindfulness. So it's important to set an intention. And I think the other thing that that energy that came up for me about just doing it right. I think it's about understanding the correct way to do something. And when I say correct, I mean the most ideal, efficient, least stressful way to do something. And there happens to be a bunch of them that most people are not aware of. So one of the simplest is breathing. And there are many, many factors that go into breathing. I mean, people have weekend retreats on breathing. There are books written on breathing. There's a lot you could get into on breathing, but one of the simplest things that I advocate, and it's not only beneficial for breathing, but also for stress at the jaw or TMJ, is to rest the flat part of the tongue on the roof of the mouth. This also tends to stabilize the cranium. It's helpful when you are driving because you need to have stability in order to have mobility. Several of the areas that are impacted by that simple little technique are the eyes. So peripheral vision, right? Being able to track, important for driving, certainly, as well as the vestibular system, which is the integrated system. So having stability there, as well as the neck, right? So the muscles of the tongue are very underrated when it comes to that fascia of the neck. And it's such a simple technique to do. And when you do that, you tend to be able to get a better moist breath breathing through your nose. So today I treated myself to a spa day and I was on my stomach and at some point I had to start mouth breathing, very uncomfortable because my nose was congested. And again, that is, a simple thing that can help with your oxygenation, which can help with your stability, which can help with your breath, which in fact then helps with your energy. It's all connected. It's all connected. And we use it, I use it, we use it in the release technique that we do that I call the comprehensive core release, because what we're doing is we're creating stability to help what? Promote mobility. Mobility in the foot. Okay. Is anybody else wanting some support on their intentions, their desired outcome? Did you find that the exercise of celebration, even the seemingly not positive or less high vibrational celebration being positive, in that it helped to provide you with clues to your desired outcome? Because I know for myself, I'm not very good at thinking about what I want specifically, right? So if I know what I don't want, then I can just reframe it to the opposite. It's like, oh, that's what I want. And also sometimes the other thing that I've learned over this particular year of 2024 and through the activator training program that I've done is that the situation that can be seemingly unpleasant, if you can look at the energy of that situation and take away what I call the cast of characters and the setting, right? And look at the energy of it, then it is way easier to intend for the opposite. So let me give you an example. Okay, let's say, I don't know, every time I travel to New York, it rains, right? And I don't like the rain, I don't like the rain, it's cold, it's da, da, da. But what is the energy? The energy for me would probably be potentially depression or discomfort, right? Has nothing to do with New York. Does that make sense? Or, whatever place I'm speaking about. It can also be, a situation with a loved one that can trigger, right? And oftentimes loved ones do trigger us. And it could be that, somebody said something and they didn't mean anything by it, but the energy that you felt from that, right, could have been very triggering because of a past event. And so that is important because it's helped me not become upset by people and or situations, because it's allowed me to focus on the energy of it and not who that came from. And what I've found too is that oftentimes this energy will show up in different forms until you have discovered how to clear that energy. I think that might be why sometimes people, wind up with certain people will find maybe the energy of narcissism in their lives. But it's not just from one person. It could be a lot of people that they're feeling that energy from, and it has nothing to do with Johnny or Sally or whatever. It's the energy of the situation. And so, blaming a person for showing you that energy is not really their fault. It's really about noticing the energy and being able to shift that I've found to be probably one of the most important discoveries. And I would say the same thing about, feeling unwell, right? So looking into situations where you may have been injured or, under the weather and, making that, into a recurring type of situation and maybe getting to the energy of it and or reframing what that looks like. So a couple of weeks ago, I was pretty violently ill. For a finite period of time, I thought I ate something, but I would rather than, call it something detrimental, I just looked at it kind of as a cleanse. a way to get bad stuff out of my body. And yes, it was not pleasant, but it just, I mean, just think of the energy of the word food poison. Ugh. Versus, my body's just cleansing itself. My digestive tract is just, cleaning up. I guess it needed to. And, and then that also kind of helped me get through it more quickly. So I hope this has been helpful. Anybody else wanting to share?
I have to go for 10 minutes or less. It's time for Alan's antibiotic.
Okay.
I give it to him intravenously, and that's one of my jobs right now. I'll be back very soon.
And do so with joy.
Yes.
There we go. Yeah. And even a situation like that where, maybe you're ingesting something and, how you are framing it, as, rather than an antibiotic, but maybe like a healing liquid or something. Again, these are all just options and suggestions to create the environment to get to your desired outcome, whatever that looks like. So is anybody interested in sharing their desired outcome for 2024, 2025? It could be in your body. It could be, in your life or whatnot. And then we'll take a quick look at the steps, and then we'll get to a little foot training. Anyone? All right. So, So when we have a desired outcome, I know for many people, New Year's is a time to want to release weight, for example, or free weight, right? So the steps, right, are setting the intention, obviously, right? Getting into that mindset, right? Understanding a system of, right, how to do it right. Educating yourself. So free any limiting beliefs, align to a program and situation, and again, comprehensive program, ideally, in body, mind, energy, and then get some education or coaching from an expert would be a great thing to do, or read some books, and then just reinforce that behavior. But one of the important things to success is understanding why, having a powerful why statement. Why is this important? And so if you're open to it, I'd like to give you another minute to declare your reasons for this desired outcome, and the reasons for taking action that are going to be important. So again, I will play a little music. We got the sound shared, and let's talk about why. Right. So, I got a little lost there. I started writing down about, about my own whys. And some of those included the energies, of peace. Another one would be self-love for sure. Mentoring my daughter and, yeah, as an example, being a good example for her. Fearlessness, peace of mind, stability, control, solutions. And again, sometimes it's the energy versus the actual situations that can be powerful. Both can really. And I think again, it really depends on what is um what is going to motivate you best, what is going to work for you best. And again, oftentimes I think it's the energy that when we intend on an energy, we take out the control of how that has to look. So recently I was told that love comes from many places. And that is true. So if you're, wanting the energy of love in your life, again, it can come from a variety of different places. So trying to, doing your best to be specific to the desired outcome. So in some instances, somebody might want a romantic partner and they might want the energy of love. But again, love can come from a pet, for example, right? So in that case, it might need to be more specific, right? As far as the desired outcome and understanding that. Very good. Okay. Anybody want to share? Anybody want to share? Get some energy behind it, doing it as a group, putting out the intention that everyone's desired outcome manifests, materializes in the way that is going to be for their highest good and for the highest good of others. Because I think when we are in a better situation, then the people around us become better also. And that has been another powerful lesson. So, yeah, so very good. Moving on to the ankle and the foot. When we are wanting to improve, right, this motion right here, one of the things that we need to do is to make sure that your foot is able to get onto the ground and to bear weight in the ideal manner. And this was a great question that came up last week in our class, is that what does the ideal foot look like? And it's more so, what does the ideal foot feel like? And what it ideally needs to feel like is that ideally we need to feel weight just in front of our heel bone, okay? And then equally on the bottom of the fifth toe and the first toe, with, right, a bit of awareness and grounding through the bases, right, of, and when I talk of this, it is the ball of the foot that I'm speaking of. So when we have a callus, right, at any joint of the foot, that is a clue, right, that we do not have equal weight bearing. So I like to say calluses are clues. Calluses develop when there's too much pressure. Same thing with a blister. Calluses, when there's too much pressure and there's too much irritation at a particular area, it is a clue, a powerful clue. about what is going on at that particular joint. Now, also, there needs to be weight bearing through all 5 toes, ideally. The big toe should represent 50% of all weight bearing in the foot. And the other 50% is distributed between the 4 other toes. Most people do not have an ideal foot. Very few people have an ideal foot. Okay, so that is the goal. That is the goal. So one of the ways that you can test that, right, is to just simply stand up. And I invite you to do so, and see if you can shift your weight so that it is just in front of the heel, and then bring awareness, right, to the ball of your foot and your toes, and see, and or more so, feel that awareness through your foot. And then we can do that. So I'm going to go ahead and do this myself as well. Give me a moment, and I can give you some feedback into my feet, which I'm really glad to say have improved quite a bit since starting the 8-week program, which I'm really excited about. And I, in fact, taped last week also on Sunday, and yeah, felt a good amount of change. Remember, we don't ever tape. It's not a great idea to tape unless we've created movement until we have released. So, and another really great way to test this, again, that we kind of learned in school, was to, you can look at the bottoms of your shoes to look where you're wearing your shoes out. Okay. And you can also wet your feet and stand on like a brown paper bag and look at the wetness, right? That will show you. And then there are even stores that have machines that test this. So you can look there also. Oftentimes it's indicated with red. So the first thing is, can we get the weight of the body just in front of the heels? And for me, this is easier on my left foot than my right foot. When I do this on my right foot, what I'm feeling into is I'm feeling into moving my pelvis to see if that will change the weight bearing. Where do I have to gain motion to get into that position? Aha. It's my lower leg coming forward. Okay. Now, some of you will not be able to do this, right? Because your feet are not able to rest onto the floor without an adaptation coming or taking place at the knee or at the hip. For some people, in order to get their weight over or just in front of their heel, what they'll do is their knees will hyperextend to do that, or their low back or pelvis might arch to get weight. So what I found is many postural structural abnormalities, right, at the knee and at the pelvis are a compensation to get weight over the big toe, which is the primary balancer of the foot. I'll say that again. Many structural changes that happen at the knee, at the pelvis, even at the toes, are done or do occur in order to get weight over the big toe, which is the primary balancer in the foot. Okay, so big toe is integral. Now, when we have calluses underneath our foot, when we cannot have a aligned knee or an aligned hip and get the weight over the just in front of the heel, oftentimes it's a result of these bones right here being too far in a downward position. So it's almost like you're wearing a heel and you're restricted here. These joints need to come up. They need to lift in order for the foot to be flat on the floor. And in order for the weight to come just in front of the heel, the lower leg needs to be able to come forward. And so what we have to do is free the connective tissue that's holding this down and the lower leg back. And that connective tissue can be fascia, it can be ligaments, it can be muscle. That's why I call it connective tissue. It can be nerve. Okay? We need to free those restrictions so that we can attain a foot, an ideal foot that is weight bearing onto the floor with the weight of the body just in front of the heel, right? And that's going right through the talus that we talked about, as well as having 50% of the weight on the base of the ball of the foot at the first toe, the hallux, and the fifth toe, and equal weight bearing through toes 2, 3, and 4, and then, right, equal weight bearing 50% through the big toe, and then the other 50% through the 4 lateral toes, with each toe articulating on the floor. That means no hammer toe. That means no hammer toe. So the goal then to achieve that is done with the comprehensive core release. And there are several ways to do this, and I will include a link on how to do the comprehensive core. And it does involve potential connective tissue releases at each joint of the toe, each of these 33 joints, right? And not just in one direction. Because if I want this part of the foot to be able to move, right, to accommodate the floor so that I can achieve that weight bearing, the connective tissue restriction can be anywhere. It could be on the bottom, or it could be on the top, or it could be in between the toes. It can be anywhere. And the way that we know where it is to test it through palpation, which I do with the head of a pencil eraser. In the toes, particularly when we're doing this in standing, I can use a theracane or a cane over that area. I would protect with a barrier like a sock or a washcloth to not irritate the skin, right? If that's a concern for some people. Some people will have more sensitive skin than others, so it's important to err on the side of caution with that. Now, the reason there is a specific way that I like to release or to free. If my goal is that these areas move up, the direction that I want them to go is toward the top, right? Toward the top of the foot. It's called the dorsum, okay? Toward the dorsum of the foot. If the connective tissue at this area is restricted, right? I can try to release or free the connective tissue on the underside, but if it's getting stuck on top, it's still not going to go up. Does that make sense? Does that make sense to everyone?
Mhm.
Super important. Okay. I am guilty of this mistake, even when I'm treating someone, because oftentimes, we think that we always have to, that a range of motion problem is always due to a lack of flexibility, a lack of lengthening, where in fact it could be because the connective tissues can't shorten. So when I lift my arm, these muscles need to lengthen, but these muscles need to shorten, or connective tissue. Again, they should not be used interchangeably. The correct term is connective tissue, even though people will like to say muscle. And so just to correct myself there. Okay, because it can be muscle, but it could also be nerve. It could also be skin. It could also be ligaments. It could be fascia. It could be I even will sometimes mobilize to release or free the connective tissue at the nail is a form of skin, which is also connective tissue. So there can be restrictions anywhere in the connective tissue of the body. So key to free those. And again, freeing in the direction that you want the emotion to go, to do that first. So that would be the top of the foot. And once again, you can, cross your foot and get into these connective tissues. A simpler way is to use the cane. And so I will, demonstrate that quickly. The problem, the only downside, I think, of the cane for me personally is that it tends to be pretty big. And I have a saying that when it comes to freeing connective tissue, size matters. The smaller the releasing tool, the more specific, the superior the result. So what one can do in situations like this is potentially, adhere a marble at the bottom if they wanted to. But honestly, this does work pretty effectively, especially for someone who has never done connective tissue release to their foot before. Okay, so I'm just going to show you very, very quickly the two directions, the top and the bottom, so that you can get a sense of getting that foot onto the floor. So just give me a moment. You are more than welcome to join me if you would like to experience this as well. And once again, I am going to show you without a barrier to my skin. Just I'm sacrificing my body for science, so to speak, just so that you can see what I am doing better. Okay, so the connective tissue that I'm speaking of goes from the tip of the toe to the beginning of the arch of the foot. So that is the entire area that requires the freeing of connective tissue. So I'm going to go ahead and just show you in this direction. What I like about the cane is that I can put pressure. I can put a lot of pressure with my hands on it and monitor the force. Now, let's just say I wanted to start at the tip of the toe, the tip of the big toe. And again, I'm releasing the top. So I depress down Then I keep my force and I test to see if it's tender. It actually is not. And it's probably because this releasing tool is too big and my connective tissue is pretty mobile. But if I go here, that's a different story. Or I could even go on an angle so that only part of the cane is pressing into the toe. So I have some tenderness right here. As I maintain this pressure, I move the releasing tool in a circular manner to find the direction that is most tender. When I've found it, what I can do is that technique that I taught you earlier of placing the flat part of the tongue on the roof of the mouth. And then I simply could move my knee back and forth, although, as we've discovered, using a little energy here, I like using the infinity sign. So I like moving in the infinity sign. What was interesting is that I actually just got a manipulation similar to something you'd experience with a chiropractor. Okay, and I do that about 10 times, and then I move on to the next area. And again, this can take some time, so I don't, unless you're, playing music or whatever, I don't really recommend, doing it in one sitting, although you can. But this is something that you could easily do in sitting at your desk. As you are maybe watching a podcast or watching TV or, doing something, because, you don't really need to look, you just need to feel. Okay. So that is the top direction. Like I said, I would work on the top of this whole area between the toes and the arch of the foot through all of the 5 toes and metatarsals. Now to go to the underside of the foot, this is another reason why I like the cane. Now under the toe, this can be a problem. Why? Because your toes can go up, right? So not the best solution. In situations where I'm working the toes and I want to work the underside, a marble works really, really well. And to that point, okay, whenever you're going to be putting your foot or your toe onto a releasing tool, it looks just a little bit different. So I can go to the ball of the foot where I do have a callus, interestingly enough, and I can put pressure there. Again, I can move the cane to try to isolate it, but then I can move my foot to find the direction that is most tender. And then I can just hold it there, stabilize with the tongue on my roof of my mouth, and then move back and forth to feel that change. And once again, I'd want to move to the next spot and continue on. This can also be done in not standing, right? So non-weight bearing, where I would take the cane underneath the foot, right? Again, and I would push. Now, for me, again, I have pretty good range of motion now, and this is not terribly tender. So for me, standing is more effective, or sitting and doing this in with my foot on top of the releasing tool. I'm not a huge fan of a ball, but a ball could work. A smaller ball, like a golf ball, would be I've worked on, and that can be beneficial as well. It really depends on how much work you've done to your connective tissue. And I've been working this foot pretty intensely lately, so it is actually looking really, really quite good. Although there's a spot. So I found a spot. Now what I can do is I can move around my imaginary clock, find the direction, And then I can move my toes to create that movement over the area. I can also rotate my thigh in and out. I'm a little bit more limited here. And there's another thing that I wanted to kind of talk about. This motion is very important to clear the foot off the floor. And a little bit is required. Most of us are not tripping over our feet. We'll oftentimes, if we lack this motion, we'll compensate with our hips. But the more functional motion of the position of the foot is in weight bearing. So 70% of our, the majority of our time is in weight bearing. And there is something that is called specificity of training, right? Being specific to the demands of a activity, of a sport. When we want to improve, we should mimic as best possible. So this position is not ideal for mimicking, right? A weight-bearing position. The ideal position is going to be in where the foot is more like onto the floor, which is in standing. And once again, this is a better position. I am really, really feeling it, where in the other position I was not. And again, I can move my toes, or I can move my lower leg around this area. And again, we want to do this maybe 10 times. And then relax. And now, after this, I can get my weight of my body over just in front of my heel. Success. Okay. Another way that is the simplest way to test it. And to reinforce that is then I would just be mindful again, right? The mind, body, mind, energy, mindful of my position as often as I could. I could again, set a timer to go off to tune in, or when I'm doing my walking, or I arrive at a certain place like Brendan Bouchard, I could put the intention of being mindful of my feet. When I'm driving, I try to do a lot of work when I'm driving. That has been a situation because I do drive quite a bit where I live. But if I walked a lot, then walking would be a good reminder as well. But this week, in the Corrective Size 8-week program, we have been working on this. And earlier, for those of you who were on the call, there was a pretty significant difference between right and left on me, where my right foot was lacking a lot of, not a lot, but it was lacking the ability of this area of the foot to go up. Right? It was my fourth and fifth toe in particular, and I was compensating. And so when I was driving this week, what I would do, it was my right foot, is that when I would let off on the gas pedal, I was very mindful of digging my heel into the ground and lifting the pedal with these two toes. So lifting up in that direction to improve that range of motion that I was wanting. So that is release, right? Realign and reinforce with education. Understanding what it is and why it is important to do things a certain way. So having that, again, that mind, that understanding, that comprehension, which I think is really important. And again, something that was not even taught to myself in my undergraduate work, right? Back in the day when I studied, it could be different now. I hope it is, because I did not learn this, when I graduated school. It was something that came later. And I would have to credit actually my understanding of this weight bearing to a book by a Pilates instructor that's used for Pilates work called Taking the Root from the Fly, or taking, yeah, something root to the fly. The root to the fly, something root to the fly.
Hmm.
And it I know has been a resource for Pilates instructors. Very interesting book. I think I have it someplace. I haven't looked at it for a while, but I do remember very simple terms for that. And then obviously some textbooks that I have as well. One I think was from an osteopath about the foot as well. But there haven't been a lot.
Oh.
But again, alignment. Yeah,
Taking root to fly.
you found it? Thank
Yeah.
you.
Taking root to fly, articles on functional anatomy.
Very good. Thank you. All right, cool. So you can put that in the chat, taking root to fly.
Okay, I will.
Yeah,
Can you
yes.
go back to the weight at the front of the heel? That fascinates me actually, because that's basically if you take the line down from where the shin bones are, the tibia and fibula,
Mhm.
if you go straight down from there, that's pretty much the front of the heel. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah.
that makes sense.
Yes, and then that goes, and then you're getting that nice compression and absorption through the talus.
Mhm.
And you'll be in better alignment so that the ankle will have better range of motion, both internally and externally, right? There's that slight internal external rotation at the lower leg. That is vital to knee health in particular. Super important for knee health. Right?
You have a
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Arlene, I didn't mean to interrupt. Are you?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So this all makes sense, like in standing, like stationary standing. But as soon as I start walking, I know that my habit has been when I take a step from one foot onto the next, I'm on, you're on more of the back of the heel when you're in in walking motion. So
Sure.
how does this translate from just standing still,
Right.
which
Thank
I've
you.
caught myself standing on the backs of my heels, like
Right.
that I didn't even realize I was doing for so long while I've been in this foot recovery from the surgeries. But just in general walking, I tend to put a lot of like weight into the back of my heel when I take a step forward.
Sure. So that's a great point, because when you are taking a step forward, the heel is the first thing to hit the ground.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
that is normal, right?
Yeah.
So there should be something, it's called heels. It used to be called heel strike. Now they call it initial contact, but
Mm-hmm.
heel strike, right? And then you translate through the foot. Okay. So very quickly you're coming forward, and ideally, right, you're having motion here, and then moving, like I said, like the row of dominoes, right, through each of the joints, each of the 52 joints, right? And eventually what actually really winds up happening is that you have the initial contact at the heel, you come ever so laterally to the fifth toe, and then the movement comes across to the big toe and off the tip of the big toe.
Mm-hmm.
That's ideally the motion, right? For walking. Walking is a bit different than obviously than standing.
Mm-hmm.
And so thank you for bringing that up, because we really didn't move through that, but that is ideally, what we'll be focusing on the remainder weeks that we have coming up, is these other joints of the foot,
Mm-hmm.
and how those are able to translate, because those guys have to move also. And
Mm-hmm.
restrictions here are where you're going to have some challenges in that dorsiflexion potentially.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Although I have found typically, not always, but typically addressing these joints right here, the 33 joints of the forefoot, right, and the ankle, I can usually get full range dorsiflexion. I don't
Mm-hmm.
usually have to work these guys.
Mm-hmm.
These bones right here. They're called tarsals. Okay, not important. This is more the midfoot. This is particularly important for the lateral movement, to allow for that lateral movement where you keep the foot on the ground and you move from side to side, which then helps with the hip mobility. Okay. But, to your point, Arlene, if you're not weight bearing over the, just in front of the heel, you will have less range of motion in your rotations. And what I found too, and something that I noticed in my own body when I would ski, when I would turn on my left side, I was always able to have a knee bend. But when I turned, it was either on my right or my left. I think it was when I would carve right. That right knee would go into extension, and it used to scare me because that is a mechanism for an ACL tear. So how important is this for skiers? Right?
Well, dancers do it. Dancers are on the front of their heel all the time.
Yes.
Well,
yeah.
Otherwise.
And as a matter of fact, they often make dance shoes that way. Correct? Where they put the heel, where they put the base of the heel, right?
A little bit farther front.
Yes. And there's a reason why they do that. Because you have better stability and mobility. Yes.
And we're taught to have our whole body just slightly forward, like we're dorsiflexing our ankle just slightly.
Right.
And instead of having our weight like back here and I'm going to fall backwards,
exactly.
It's like slightly leaning forward all the time. So a little bit more weight is on the ball of the foot.
Exactly. And oftentimes dance shoes are slightly heeled.
Yeah.
For that reason. Same thing with figure skates.
Okay.
Figure skates also have a heel to them. And, it's no wonder that these people can do sit spins, right? Because they do have their weight forward to compensate for the lack of dorsiflexion.
Oh, that's true. Yes.
And again, it's easier to squat, for example, when you have a heel on, and oftentimes, and that's another telltale sign that you would lack this important movement. And I think that's why we wind up losing it, because we don't squat and we have toilets where we don't squat. So yeah, I've often said that chairs and toilets are the demise of society, because if they were not around, we would be squatting because little kids can squat, right? What winds up happening? They go to school and they're in chairs for 8 hours a day.
Right.
It changes a lot of things at the ankle and at the hips. Super important. So a way to reinforce this, and again, with people who have knee problems, I caution this without protection, which again, I like to use multiple muscles working at once. Okay, so that concept that we talked about, where when you're stimulating one muscle, it can provide stability through the system, right? Through that concept of irradiation that we talked about. Having multiple areas working simultaneously to get that stability. And when we have stability, then we can reinforce mobility and vice versa. So again, I will, I can potentially show that. I'm just trying to think of what I can use. I can use a water bottle is what I'll use. Okay, so let's just say I wanted to reinforce this dorsiflexion. Okay. What I can do is I can squeeze the water bottle, right? So I'm activating these muscles, the muscles in the inner thigh, right? As I'm squeezing and I'm pushing down and moving down to reinforce that that dorsiflexion. And once again, I'm looking down and maybe you can see it or not, but there are a lot of wrinkles. And like I said, wrinkles are good when it comes to range of motion, right? Look at all those wrinkles. So now I'm not getting as much pressure onto my knees. And another thing that I could do, and we do this in yoga, it's called the chair pose, right? You're squeezing. I'm actually trying to push my heels apart as I'm squeezing my knees together, and then I can come down pretty far as well to reinforce that. I am actually bearing weight back to, keep the knee in a more neutral position, which is what is done in chair pose.
Dio, can I ask you another question?
Sure.
So I can squat like all the way down, like to the ground.
Yeah.
And a lot of times in the morning, because I've got to get something out of the cabinet under my sink, and my calves are tight a lot in the morning, I'll just squat and hang out there.
Yeah.
And it feels really good.
Yeah.
But if I was doing that exercise that you just were showing, I probably, I might need to try it when we get off, but I don't think I could squat down as far. I mean, I'll squat all the way down to the ground and just like hang out there, like you were talking about how they used to not have toilets,
Yes.
if it's that position. And I don't have a problem with that, but with that exercise you just did, I would imagine I would not get down that far.
Yeah. So when people squat, and again, typically what they'll do is they'll do this and come down.
Yeah.
Right. The idea is to be able to do this in neutral.
With the feet forward.
With the feet forward.
Okay. Yeah,
And
because I think
again,
mine are turned out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I could not do this when I was 28. This is the thing I could not do. And that I can do now. And again, you have to have good health in the feet, especially. Otherwise, what's going to get your stress? The knees.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and also having good stability. How do you get stability, right? You can you can do those isometric contractions at other muscles and create that stability through the system, that it kind of has a wave of stability going through there that can stimulate those stabilizing muscles to fire in the foot, and also pressing the big toe down. One of my favorite exercises. One of my most favorite exercises. And major stabilizer throughout the entire body. So the big toe, I mean, they're finding connection between the big toe grounding and pelvic floor. So urinary incontinence issues.
Oh, interesting.
Diaphragm. I mean, there again, the big toe, grounding the big toe is what saved me from knee surgery. Yeah. So
DL,
yeah.
I'm interested in what you said about the external rotation of the lower leg being crucial, because on my left leg, sometimes I get an internal rotation, like a collapse at the ankle and an internal rotation, and the knee goes in. And I find, similar to what you said with the squat, to get my knee right, I actually have to activate my upper leg and my glute muscles.
Right.
And that will get everything down the line, in line. Is that right or wrong?
Yes. To answer your question, so let me just reiterate what you said, is that in order to get the lower leg in better alignment, what you're doing is you're adjusting the pelvis and activating the muscles in the pelvis and the core. Once again, it's very similar to what I just showed you.
That's
using those muscles to facilitate and to provide stability, because if you have stability, then you can have mobility, and then you could have mobility in the lower leg, which is not very mobile, quote unquote. Most people are unable to rotate internally and externally at their lower leg, right? Most people cannot do that, especially if they're not bearing weight in front of the heel. and
Right.
equally distributed through the toes. And that's again a very important slight movement that can save you from an ACL tear or a ligamentous tear, to have
Right.
that slight mobility there. And again, how do you get mobility there? By having stability in the feet and the
Mhm.
pelvis. And that's
Yeah.
why with knee problems, the feet and the pelvis are so important, especially the stabilizing muscles like the muscles of the big toe and the foot muscles in particular.
Right.
Super, super important. So,
Okay. It's
yeah,
okay to rotate the whole leg and pelvis position in order to, because my ankle is very hypermobile.
yes.
Mhm.
And so, again, the question is that are you collapsing to get weight over the big toe?
Maybe.
And
Yeah.
might, right?
Yeah.
Might your big toe need to drop, right?
Mhm.
Might this area need to drop in order? And we talked about this, right? How you were talking about potentially modifying your shoe,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Maybe this needs to go down in your case.
Interesting. Oh, I can't wait to
In
try that.
which case, then you would need to release underside and then the top going down.
Right.
And then you do what? Tape it into the position you want it to be. So
Right.
when we looked at my toes a few weeks ago, and I had that very prominent ball of the foot that I noticed in the high arch that
Yeah.
had been plaguing me for kind of a while. I was very, I discovered it in yoga class, I don't know, about 6 months ago. And here I am, like trying to mobilize the arch. The arch was just fine. It was my toe.
Hmm.
And so I'll take a picture of it to show you guys how it has improved, since last week's class and since I've done the taping.
Adele, are you
And
talking about the tape that you did on the underside of the foot to push that metatarsal in?
yes, what I did was I taped, so I had a callus here, right, on the underside of my big toe. And
Mhm.
what I did, again, this segment was dropped. I wanted to lift it up. So the
Mhm.
opposite of what Arlene needs to do.
Mhm.
Okay?
Mhm.
So what I did was I took the tape underneath here and I pulled this up, right? And
Mhm.
then I took the tape and I put the big toe down. Because what was presenting was this. I had this down, so this was up.
So what do I do on my my fourth metatarsal head on my left foot is, protruding into the ball of my foot to where it really hurts when I walk on it now. But
Mhm.
that toe is not sticking up in the air. And it can't because that was one of the ones 30 years ago. I
Right.
had the
Is it
tendon cut
ground? Is
underneath.
it grounded? Is it able to touch the ground?
Yeah, it's totally on the ground, but I don't know. And like this metatarsal head did not bother me before the surgery I had, and it
Right.
really didn't seem to bother me while I was in that 10 months of recovery where I had pain in the middle of the ball of my foot, which is
Right.
now gone. But I wasn't sure how to tape that because,
So yeah, when you're in a position where it is one of these middle metatarsals,
uh-huh,
right? One of these guys.
yep,
Obviously you can't, because this is the ball of the foot, so you can't
yeah,
do like I did to the big
you're
toe.
right, yeah,
What you can do, and I'll share this next time, is after you've released, you
right.
can put like a felt. There's some felt that you
That's
can
what
buy.
been sticking on my foot
Yeah, and
for,
you can do that, or even I use like Dr. Scholl's corn removers. They're not
uh-huh,
as stiff as felt,
yep,
but what you would do is you tape the felt underneath here,
that's what I've been
or
doing.
and then you walk on it. But you need to this. That's reinforcing, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
So the other thing is that this if this segment metatarsal ball of the foot area is
mm-hmm,
down, right?
mm-hmm.
That means that its corresponding seesaw saw is up.
On the
And
top,
you might have to address this area right
right.
here to bring that down so that
Mm-hmm.
that can go up. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
why this area is very seesaw-y. I like to think
Yep.
of it as a seesaw.
Hmm.
And these bones that touch the seesaw can
Yep.
affect the seesaw.
Okay. Yeah. And I
Um,
think it developed as all this compensation of how weird I was walking for 10 months,
Absolutely.
trying to get off of that pain in the middle of the ball of my foot.
Absolutely. The changes that I made to my big toe were because of trauma, avoiding
Hmm.
trauma. And
Yeah.
we've had this conversation also about,
Hmm.
even when you have surgery, it's even more important to get therapy afterwards so that
Right.
you can undo the months of potential pain, right,
Yep.
that you may have had before the surgery, and then also the compensations that you made um,
Right.
at an area that was in the process of healing so
Right.
that you were not going to injure it. And
Hmm.
again, completely appropriate, right?
Right.
I mean, it's what you're supposed to do. There's nothing,
Hmm.
there's nothing wrong with that.
Hmm.
It's just that it is what happens, and it can cause problems once you
Hmm.
are healed and
Right.
expected to go back to all of those, beautiful things that you like to do.
Hmm.
Okay. Anyway, anybody else have any
mm,
questions before I sign off? Um, yeah, any other questions?
mm.
We will
Not,
be
not a
going.
question, but let
All you
me
need is love.
share this. This is a collage that I did recently. Um,
Ah,
Awesome.
it's a takeoff on do what you love, but we don't always
mhm,
have the luxury of doing what we love.
right.
So I decided to turn it into love what you do.
Oh, that's
Excellent.
great, Arlene.
And
Do you
that's
do a lot of collage?
Yes, yes, I
Just
love
so do I. Yeah, I love
uh,
it.
excellent. It is
so.
that theme. It is that theme.
Mhm.
And yeah, because it's easy. Right?
Mhm.
It's easy. All you need is love. Like I said, just I have that song in my head lately. So
Yep.
kind of, yeah, so again, that's another way to kind of reinforce what we're wanting to do and making things higher vibrational
Mhm.
and using, right, every tool that we have to get that desired outcome,
Mhm.
whatever that may be for us. And if nothing else, I hope that's what you gained from this. And for those of you who are not a part of the 8-week class, Arlene and Lori are, myself as well. There are still several weeks left, and we have the recordings from a few weeks ago, like from all the
Hey.
other weeks. And what we do is we do more of what we did today. So we are really integrating the body mind energy component with the focus and the intention, right, to create a freer, more stable, right, more mobile, more functional, more comfortable foot. And I can attest for myself that I've made great strides, excuse the pun. There's so many foot puns. I picked the best area to specialize in as far as puns are concerned, but made great strides. I mean, I've gone back to high intensity running, which I haven't done in a while, a really long time. I think I've gotten up to 6 minutes on that. Uh, my flexibility in yoga. Um, this week in particular, I used to have the pull in my calves, no longer. Now it's in my hamstring. So it's good. I mean, so now I just work up the kinetic chain, but it's out of that. My balance is far improved. And what's great is that we practice together. So it makes it a lot easier to get it done. And we've had, because it's an 8-week class, and I don't think it needs to be in the future, but there has been a lot of time to go through the information more than once. And as Lori said earlier, having the recordings and going through it again, hearing something new each time makes it also a bunch easier. And when you have the membership, you also have the step-by-step intensive videos that show you with greater accuracy than what I was able to show you today. at the foot, because I basically had the camera right at my feet. So, yeah, I don't even think I could see that close up to my feet. So anyway, yeah, I'll be putting that link, yeah, I'll be putting that link in the email recording. And if anybody has any questions, they want to reach out to me, support@dlwalkerconsultant.com. And I would just say one other thing about the energy of just doing it right. Part of just doing it right is understanding when you might need some extra help from somebody who knows and has great experience with what they're doing. So I would certainly be one of those people. Tamar, who's on the lecture today, she knows quite a bit also. And to seek the possibility or look into the possibility of maybe doing a couple of sessions to get to your specific cause, because everybody has a different root cause potentially about what's going on or what's limiting them, and it might not be in the foot or beyond. It might be in the mindset and energy, or that could be components of it. So again, there's a saying, reveal it to heal it. So if that might be aligned to you, you can reach out to me as well. And we do an evaluation strategy session first, just to see if it, what we can come up with. And then if it's appropriate to move forward with sessions, we talk about that as well. So yeah. And I don't know if Arlene or Lori want to comment on their experience, but I know that it's helped them.
It's
definitely.
It's helped me tremendously.
Definitely.
The energy sessions that we did, you just can't get that kind of healing or that kind of relief any other way.
Yeah, and important to note too, Arlene did get structural work done locally while we were working with the energy. And Lori, I think the energy, in addition to the other stuff that we did together, really helped you get the ball rolling.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. No, you're so generous with your time and your information. It's pretty remarkable.
Well, thank you. It's done with love, and it's in the giving that I receive. So I appreciate you saying that. It means a lot. All right, everyone, have a beautiful, blessed night, a fantastic new year, and I hope to see you in another training soon. All right.
Yep.
Have a good
bye.
night. Bye now.